This is the CitizenLink report.
If you find our insights helpful, would you support our video efforts? $500 buys an hour of studio time. And we usually don't use a whole hour, but it covers the crew, lights, cameras, all that. That means your gift of $25 or more goes a long ways. Just click on Donate. Thanks from all of us.
In the midst of all the court battles and holiday sales, are we still able to find Christmas? This is the CitizenLink report. I'm Stuart Shepard along with Carrie Earll, who is our senior analyst here. Hi, Carrie.
Hi, Stuart.
Seems like every year about this time we start talking about all these court battles over nativity scenes and other public expressions of faith, and particularly Christmas.
It is. It seems like conflict and Christmas go together in this culture anymore, which is a little disappointing. There have been a couple good news stories I'd like to highlight, particularly in how the conflict was resolved. It isn't always resolved by the court. The first case is a big win affecting a public nativity scene in Warren, Michigan, and this has been out in a public median on the road since 1945. We're talking a long-standing tradition in this community. Where there was a challenge against it, the local officials said, okay, we'll take it down. And that started a 4-year battle in the courts. Well, there was a ruling earlier this year in favor of the Nativity, so the Nativity is back up in Warren, Michigan, so that's good news.
Very good.
Meanwhile, in Santa Monica, California, another nativity scene, this one at the park, again, long-standing, goes back to 1953. The courts got involved, there was a challenge, the court said, no, you can't do that, and it seemed all was lost. But what's interesting is, advocates for the nativity scene in this community looked at the ban, and what they found was it was limited to unattended displays. So they're having a live nativity, and it's back on. So thinking outside the box, taking a good look, getting good counsel helped them there. And finally, also in California, there were a group of seniors living in a senior apartment complex, and they came out one day and found their Christmas tree was gone. There had been a complaint. So instead of going to court, they just went to the management and said, can we have our Christmas tree back? And the answer was yes. So there are a lot of different ways that these conflicts can be resolved, not always through the court. Sometimes just talking to someone will take care of that.
A little conversation goes a long ways. We're also seeing some new threats that are coming this particular season.
Well, I think we're going to continue to see a trend that's starting, and it's overtly about religious freedom, particularly with groups that hold a Christian worldview in regard to marriage and biblical sexuality. We've seen this at University of California, Berkeley, where the student government there has passed a resolution rather, to ban the Salvation Army, the kettles, the kettlebells, where they collect donations for the Salvation Army's work. And the students were saying, well, this is a group that does not believe in same-sex marriage, so they're discriminating. So we don't want them on the campus. You know, ironically, the Salvation Army, this debate's come up before. Yeah. This is a ministry that is biblically based, but it doesn't deny services to anyone. It helps everyone who is in need. So here again, because the Salvation Army holds a Christian worldview on marriage and sexuality, they're being targeted. So that's a bit of a concern. Also on military bases, I think we're going to continue to see threats there. Chaplains who monitor religious freedom on military bases are reporting this Christmas the U.S. Navy has ordered a live nativity scene that's on a military base in Bahrain to stop because, again, they've had complaints with that. So again, we can have some wins and some losses, but it's going to continue to be a conflict in the culture, it looks like.
One of the places that we come, I think, most directly in contact with this is simply when we're out shopping and you go from store to store, and some of the windows will say Christmas sale and come in for your Christmas gifts. Others talk about a holiday, and they never really seem to specify Christmas except as the delivery date they promised to deliver things by.
Well, it's interesting because, again, the reason for the season is pretty clear to most people, and I think it's worth examining the messages, the marketing messages that different retailers have. Are they avoiding Christmas? Are they embracing it? You know, the retailers, Stuart, would do well to pay attention to the public opinion polls. Repeatedly, we have seen continued polls year after year that show that most people want Merry Christmas. They want that to be said to them in the stores. They want that in the messaging and in the catalogs. They're not so big on the Happy Holidays part of this, so that makes sense. We want to keep up with that. There are some stores that will be very specific in their references to Christmas. There are others that will avoid that. So if that's important to you, you should keep track of it. Our friends at American Family Association and Liberty Counsel are tracking those pretty closely this year. You can go to their websites. They have some short lists of naughty and nice retailers where they've kept track of what's in their stores, what's in their catalogs. You know, the bottom line is, Stuart, if you want my spending money in December, chances are I'm buying a Christmas present. And for a retailer to avoid the message that's the very reason most people are shopping doesn't make a lot of sense. So if that's something that is of concern to you, just pay attention to where you're shopping. What are the messages that are being portrayed around the season?
I did a little spot check before we came down here to record this and just went to some sites, some that I knew generally supported Christmas, and sure enough, they still mention it very clearly on their pages. I went to some others that in the past have used the holiday language rather extensively, and I noticed something interesting. They're not using holiday so much as they did in the past, but they aren't saying Christmas either. It's just a sale, and come buy your gifts, but they don't want to talk about what they're about. I also noticed one that was having their semi-annual sale, only twice a year does this happen. It just happened to be happening now, I guess, just because that's how the calendar worked out. But it seems like retailers are beginning to get the message and at least moving in the direction of Christmas again.
I think it's going to take people who want to have a Christmas message reminding those retailers on an annual basis. It's the sort of thing that you need to let your dollars decide your message. And if you want to spend money with somebody who does Christmas messages, let them know that. Let them know, I'm spending money with you, X company, because you do honor Christmas, but it's the sort of thing, the culture is so hostile, unfortunately, to the message of Christmas, because of these complaints of freedom from religion, that the retailers are going to go with very likely whoever puts on the most pressure, so we can't really let that go.
What else do we learn from this as we step back and look at it from the big picture?
Well, when you put all these pieces together, I'm just reminded this year that the hostility toward Christmas is not about Christmas, it's about Jesus Christ, who came and was born. And, you know, Christmas points us to Easter, which is the culmination of the most important single event in human history, the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. So as we encounter hostility in the culture, we need to remember not only the reason for the season that we believe, and we know that Jesus came and died for all, but that's really what people are mocking and they're ignoring, is the life and the birth of Jesus. So it gives us an opportunity, I think, to be good witnesses, to say Merry Christmas with a smile on our face, to not be sour, to defend our rights in the public square, absolutely, when there's a threat to that. But to remember the hostility is against that little babe who came to be our Savior.
All right. So babe in the manger is hope. The resurrection is salvation.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you, Carrie, and thank you for watching. We always appreciate hearing from you. You may always write to us at mail@citizenlink.com. Pray for our nation as we work through this, that the mere mention of Christmas or other expressions of Christian thought in the public square would be more acceptable to our country, that we would begin to win some of these court battles and establish once again that this is a nation based on Christian principles, and the expression of that is not a troubling thing whatsoever. And remember, stand tall and be heard.